viewers, and heart me up, and and thank you for coming in. Also to my replay viewers, thank you so much for being in the scope on this evening. Who am I? First of all, I am Velda Brazil. I am a pastor's wife. I am a first lady, and I help other pastors' wives to master the joys and challenges of being a wife in ministry. That's who I am. And why am I qualified to do this? Because I have 20 years experience with being a pastor's wife, being a first lady, and I have 30 years experience in being married. So I definitely have the experience to be able to come and talk to you about the challenges and the joys of being a pastor's wife. So thanks again for joining. Listen, I want to talk to you, as I put in my title, about mastering the challenges of being a pastor's wife. And please don't get me wrong. I love being a pastor's wife. But one thing about this role, and it's truly a role of being a pastor's wife, it's a calling. It is truly a ministry calling. And when you walk in this calling, there's no rule book other than the Bible, of course. There is no rule book regarding being a pastor's wife. A pastor has rules. It's really laid out in the Bible, how a pastor should be, the qualifications of a pastor and what he is supposed to do. But nowhere does it give the qualifications of being a pastor's wife or being the first lady of the church. Thank you so much for coming in. I welcome you. So there's nowhere that talks about those qualifications. So I'm here to assist you with that, first of all. So what I want to talk about today are master some of the challenges that we have as pastor's wife. There's actually 3 challenges that I want to talk about today. 3 challenges that we may have as pastor's wife, or that you may have as a pastor's wife, and how to deal with those challenges. Like I said, there's no rule book that we follow as pastors' wives, and exactly everything we should do. So some of the challenges that we may have, and one of the challenges we may have, is being intimidated. Being intimidated. Hey, thank you so much for joining. And that's a huge challenge that we have as first ladies. I want you all to heart me up as you come in. Periscope's acting really strange. I can't see anyone. I can't see. There you go. I can see numbers. I can't see names. So I am welcoming you into the scope. I just can't see your name as you come in. So sorry about that. But anyway, being intimidated as a pastor's wife, that's a really big deal, because as a pastor, oftentimes pastors take positions into a new church, or they plant, or they found a church. So sometimes it's a little different in how you actually, as the pastor's wife, have to handle this. If your husband has taken on the role, or walked into a church and was invited to pastor that church, then you are often going to be intimidated by the membership, because they always want to compare you to the former first lady, the former pastor's wife. How many of you heard this? My pastor's wife, she used to do it this way, or the pastor's wife used to do it that way, or the pastor's wife used to do this, or she didn't do it that way, or we never did such and such that way. Always comparing you to the former first lady, or the former first lady, she sang, she played the piano, or she wasn't active in the church at all, but here you come, very active in the ministry. So that can be a very intimidating position to be in. If your husband is the founder, or if you and your husband are the founders of your church, and that's really my testimony. My husband is the founder of our ministry. So I didn't walk in the shoes of being intimidated by a former first lady, because I'm the only first lady our ministry has ever had. But I did have the intimidation from people who may have joined our ministry from other ministries. Again, comparing me to the former first lady of the church that they may have belonged to, or their former first lady, or their former pastor's wife. So it's very intimidating when you're always being compared to somebody. It's a very intimidating place. So how do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? First of all, you have to realize that you cannot live up to anybody else's expectations. You cannot. Have you ever heard the the cliche, you can't walk in somebody else's shoes. Sure can, because those are not the size that you need. If I'm wearing a size 9, I can't put my foot in a size 6. It's too tight. If I wear a size 8, I can't wear a size 10. It's too big. I'm flip-flopping around. It just doesn't fit. So you have to not allow people to try to squeeze you in or have you to drop into somebody else's shoes. It just won't work. You have to learn to be yourself and not be intimidated. You cannot live up to someone else's expectations. You have to be you. Number one, it takes time. Number two, it takes time to create change. Hey there, DT Terrell, thank you so much for joining. As you come in, invite your followers. I am First Lady Val de Brazil. I am a wife. I am a First Lady, and I help other pastors' wives to master the challenges and the joys of being a ministry wife. And I'm talking about today overcoming challenges that we as pastors' wives have to deal with and how we overcome those challenges. The first challenge I'm talking about is being intimidated, being compared to the former First Lady, being compared to another person joins your church and they're always comparing you to the First Lady of their former church. Intimidation. She didn't wear this. She didn't sound like this. She didn't talk like that. She did this. She did that. Intimidation. All you can do is be you. As a First Lady, all you can do, thank you for coming back, Nurse Neen. I don't know if we're having problems or not, but all you can do is be you. Hey, First Lady Lewis. Hey, thank you for coming in. We're talking about intimidation and being intimidated and being compared to the former First Lady of the church, if there was one. And how do we deal with that? You have to be patient. You have to be patient. It takes time to create change. I always tell First Ladies who are new to the ministry or new First Ladies, if you've been in ministry less than 5 years, you cannot change people or things overnight. You can't do it. It takes time. And sometimes you have to come in and sort of slide into the current role that was already taking place, kind of watching before you come in and make all kind of changes. You can't do it. You have to be you. You have to come in. You have to observe and then love the people. Love them, love them, love them. Allow them to get to know you and to love you. And then you just will not, they won't stop the comparison. When they learn to love you, when they learn to appreciate you, then all of that will stop. I won't say all of that will stop because, there's always some people. But you cannot be intimidated by having people to try to put you in the shoes of someone else. So that's one challenge we deal with as First Ladies, being intimidated. Another challenge you may have is friends with the sheep. Let me say this. Don't do it. Don't do it. You cannot be friends with the sheep. Absolutely cannot be friends at all. I'm not saying you should not be friendly, but being friends is a whole nother thing. There's nowhere in the Bible where it talks about David being friends with his sheep. He was not. He shepherded the sheep. He kept the sheep. He went and even brought sheep back that left the flock. He cared for the sheep. He loved with the sheep. He led the sheep. He was never friends with the sheep. Amen. Amen, First Lady Lewis. Amen. Same thing with a mother to your children. I have 2 of them. They're grown now. And our relationship has changed because they are grown. Now I guess we can say we're friends. But coming up, I was not friends with my children. I told them, I'm your mother. I'm not your friend. I'm not going to see things the way you see things. I'm not going to hang out with you. I'm going to discipline you. Absolutely never friends with the sheep. You can't do it. If you find yourself being friends with the sheep, trust me, there's going to be problems. Now, that's not to say, as I said, you're not friendly. You're not pleasant. Yeah, you may go out with them. You may go to dinner. You may do something with them because, yes, you're building relationship. You're building relationship. But to be picking up the phone and having an hour-long conversation, no. To be hanging out all the time and shopping and traveling, you cannot be friends with the sheep. Because if you're friends with them, you can't lead them. You can't direct them. You can't guide them. Because now they're not going to receive anything from you because you have become their friend. So you cannot befriend the sheep. You love the sheep. You care for the sheep. You nurture the sheep. You're not friends with the sheep. So that can definitely be a challenge because oftentimes, particularly if you're new, you want to, get to know the people. And sometimes you may find those few people that you really like, but you still cannot be friends with them. So those are challenges that we have as well. Another challenge, and please let me know if you have other challenges. In fact, I do want to know. In fact, let me also identify myself. I'm Lady Valda. I am a wife. I am a pastor's wife. I'm a first lady. I help other pastors' wives to master the joys and the challenges of being a ministry wife. How can I do this? Because I've been a pastor's wife for 20 years and I've been married for nearly 30 years. So I share with you my pearls of wisdom that I have gained over the years. I want to know what challenges you have being a pastor's wife. Put it right there in the chat. I'm having trouble seeing things, but I'll probably see it later. If you're having challenges as a pastor's wife, that's what I need to know about so I can help you to overcome those challenges. Another challenge is, and I know I'm not the only one having this challenge, is church and family balance. This cannot even be something we discuss in this few minutes of a scope, but that's a big challenge. Is church and family balance, managing the ministry, balancing relationships with your husband outside of the church, and balancing relationship with your children. You have already touched on them. Absolutely. Okay. I'm sure there's more. So if you have more, let me know. But that's a big one, is balance. It was a huge one for me going into ministry. When we started pastoring 20 years ago, both my children were young. They were young. And so they weren't even, one was in school age and the other one I think was in school. I really can't remember now. But, so I still had to go through with, the sports events and the music events and the school events and dealing with that and dealing with their issues and the things they were doing and still being in the church and still being a pastor's wife. And then you want to balance your relationship. You don't want to get so ministry focused that you lose your relationship. You need a date night. If you don't have one, we need to create one. You need outings with your spouse, with your pastor husband. It doesn't always have to be a major trip. It could be an overnight trip, but you need outings with him so that you all are maintaining relationship as husband and wife. Again, setting priorities up front. One priority I set when we were early in pastoring, we did go to our church conferences on a yearly basis. What about when family member, are also church members? That's a big one. That's a big one. And I will note that because that's something you really have to deal with. When mother-in-law, I was in that position, is one of your church mothers. Sisters and brothers and cousins and aunties who are all in your church. It can be difficult, but those are things we have to learn how to master. 90-Day Victory. Thank you so much for joining. I'm First Lady Valda, Valda Brazil, and I help other pastors' wives to master the joys and challenges of being a first lady in ministry. And we're talking about some challenges, and one challenge we're talking about that is balancing church and home life. Have some date nights. Have some times. I have set a rule that on certain times we don't talk about church at home. Now, yes, it happens, but there's certain times where I'm like, nope, no ministry talk at home. If we go on vacation, no ministry talk on vacation. You have to make sure you have balance. Take a vacation. Take it quarterly. Get away with your mate. If he doesn't do it, you make sure something happens because you are first married to him. You are wife first. You're in relationship first. And as a first lady, your priority is to your husband, is to your marriage, is to your family. So a wise woman does what? She builds her home. So you have to build up your relationship. Create outings. If finances is an issue, there's a lot of free things in every city. A lot of free events. Go to a park. Go walk around. Exercise together. You don't have to always spend money, but you have to create the balance. Set some boundaries. As I was saying, I have a rule in my house that when we are on vacation, no ministry talk. We also have a time, particularly in the evenings, on Sunday evenings, we cut it. No ministry talk when we get home on a Sunday evening. My husband has to be able to come down. He has to detox. He has to be able to step away from the people. So that's our time if we don't have a second service on a Sunday. So you have to create that balance. You have to let the people know, hey, I may not be in church. You can have a picnic. And I know that's right. That's a fantastic idea. Picnic in the living room. Sure can. Surely can. You have to create those things where you have family balance. You have to let your church know. If you have children, I am mommy first. My children have school choral events. My children have school sporting events. I have to go to the PTA meeting. I have to go to the meeting to talk about my children's grades, the 90-day meeting talking about their grades. I have to be mommy first. I may not be in Bible study tonight. Maybe I can't make every church event because I still have to be mommy. Let them know that up first. If you're a new first lady, that's one of the things you have to let the membership know, that I have other responsibilities. And one of my main responsibilities is mommy first. So you have to create that, because they're going to be like, well, why isn't the first lady at church? Because first lady had other responsibilities. So very important that you create balance in church and home balance as a first lady. So as I was saying, there's really no rules. There's a lot of rules how the pastor should be. There's a lot of, in the book of Timothy, it talks about how the pastor should be. But there's no rulings. There's no guidance on the first lady. So I am here. My passion is to help us as first ladies to overcome these challenges. There are many. To help us to deal with these. There's no guidebook to pick up and learn how to be a first lady. I want to change that. So if you are having challenges walking in your role as a first lady, let me know. Please let me know. Those are things we can talk about. Ideas. I love having a picnic in the living room. And trust me, 90-day victory, I'm going to institute that as one of the things we do for family balance outside of the church. So again, I am First Lady Velda, and we were talking about today 3 challenges that we have as pastor's wife. One was being intimidated. If you are not the founder of your ministry and you came into a ministry as the new pastor and the new first lady, new pastor's wife, you have probably heard, my former first lady did it this way, or she didn't do this. You cannot allow yourself to be intimidated by that. You cannot. Thank you so much for joining. Cut to the heart. Thank you for joining. So don't be intimidated. Be you. Learn to love the people. They will learn to love you. It takes time to create change. They have to get to know you. And that takes time. Second, you cannot be friends with the sheep. That's a challenge, particularly if you're new to a city. Maybe you've gone to a church. You don't know anybody there. The only people you know are in your ministry. And you crave that friendship. You still cannot be friends with the sheep. Be friendly. Be kind. Be nice. You can even go out to lunch or dinner or have your women's ministries, but you can't become friends with the sheep. You cannot spill your guts, for lack of a better word. You can't tell everything to the sheep, because then what have you done? Sometimes the sheep aren't going to respect you because you had a disagreement with the pastor. They're going to be looking at you with the side eye. So you can't tell them everything. When you become friends, you know how you are with your friend, your best friend. That's who you pick up the phone with, and you want to go and you want to talk to them. You can't do that with the sheep. so you can't be friends with the sheep. Creating church and family balance. That can be a challenge for all of us. So those are just 3 challenges I wanted to talk about today. We will be talking about more. If you're interested in finding out more information, how about clicking the little Perryman down there? Follow me. I am on all platforms at the number 1, Lady Valda. You can follow me on my Facebook page, on Periscope, on Twitter, as I come to you with more information. Hey, and listen, I'm thinking about creating some resources and some courses and some classes. Does anyone think that could be a good idea to help to train other pastors' wives? Because there are no rule books. So yes, thank you, First Lady Lewis. Yes. Okay. Anybody else be interested in some courses and some classes that First Ladies could take? Also, I have another idea, and you all let me know what you think about this. I'm thinking of doing a forum with some other First Ladies where we could get together and ask questions. If you're a new First Lady, you can talk to some seasoned First Ladies and ask them some questions about how they did this or how they did something else. So those are some ideas I have. I want your ideas. I want your ideas. I want your thoughts as well. So, join my Facebook page, again, at First Lady Valda on all social media platforms. So I thank you for coming in today to this live stream. Again, if you're not following me, please hit the little Perryman down there and follow me so you'll know when I come on talking about overcoming the joys, not the joys, but overcoming the challenges of being a pastor's wife. So thank you so much for joining me on this evening. You all have a phenomenal day. To my replay viewers, thank you for coming in. Remember to follow me and share this scope out. Thank you so much. Have a phenomenal one.